The sun hasn't come up yet, but the damage is already taking shape here in Peggs, the most visible of which is at the only gas station in town. You see the tornado that came through here ripped a pump off of one side and swung it around to the other, but that is just the beginning. If you look over at the building, this is all that's left of Cowboys Filling Station, which was also a deli, a banquet hall, a flower shop, a supply store, and a feed store. But an entire part of the building had the roof ripped off. The owner, Clay Saffel, tells me that a lot of what was inside, all of his inventory is ripped out, and they are just trying to rebuild a year after buying the place. One of the hardest parts is that this happened just before Memorial Day weekend.
Our season is the summer season. The wintertime we struggle, just try to get by through the winter, try to make the money in the summer, and very, very concerned about it.
As the Saffel family wraps their mind around all of this damage, the emergency management crew is taking a nap right now. They will come back out to reassess what's going on in Peggs when the sun comes up, because right now they can't even get to many of the homes because of downed trees and power lines. But we'll have an update from them coming up for you in the next hour. Reporting from Peggs, Jessi Mitchell, Oklahoma's own News 9. The raging Cimarron River and some of its feeder waterways, like the Cottonwood Creek, not looking very creek-like this morning, have been causing a lot of main thoroughfares to close down. This Highway 33 bridge, brand new, just reopened around 2 a.m. and two parts of Highway 77 remain closed at this hour, at least until later on this morning. Guthrie Fire Chief Eric Harlow tells me that the Cimarron River levels went down but then came back up again. Overnight, firefighters had to rescue a man from a travel trailer on his property, and the chief says it was a very dangerous situation there. Thankfully, they were able to get him out safely. Now, it is a waiting game at this point as Mother Nature settles after the storm. That is why Guthrie Public Schools decided to cancel classes today, and the fire chief suggests you stay home as well if at all possible. He's hoping the water recedes before the next round of rain rolls in. And another concern is that once that water does recede, the roads will be washed out, and you can see why. Look how high and fast this water is moving behind me. That's why it's so important for you to stay home if at all possible, but turn around, don't drown in a situation like this. And it's not just the case here. It's happening across the state, including in El Reno, and that's where we find News 9's Ashley Holden. What's it looking like out there right now, Ashley? And of course, today's threat is made more significant by the memories that are brought up by this day 6 years ago when children died in school. And the school districts are showing they have learned their lesson. Most of them already installing storm shelters, but they don't want to take any chances with student safety during this threat. Besides more public schools, Oklahoma City schools are closed, as well as Mustang, Yukon, Norman, and Middle. El Reno, though, insisted on staying open, pointing out that students will have quick access to the shelters on campus if they're already there. Edmond Public Schools initially announced they were staying open, but 30 minutes later released an update saying the team had reconsidered after looking at the data. And as Jed mentioned, that data is showing that Oklahoma City and its suburbs are the target today. So this morning, you should be going over your shelter plan with your families and make sure to download that News 9 weather app to stay up to date ahead of the storm. Live from OKCPS headquarters at Northeast High School, Jessi Mitchell, Oklahoma's own News 9. Still pretty shaken up. He started speeding towards us across this field. It looked like he was trying to say something to us out of his window when he was approaching with everybody in hot pursuit. You can still see where the road here started to turn down Indian Hills Road, and then one of the troopers came and hit him in the tail, spun him into our car. We were so fortunate that only that piece that's hanging off the back of his truck hit our mirror. Some glass splattered on my pants, but that's it. And then he took off that way. Very, very close call for us. We didn't really have anywhere to go. There were cars lined up on both sides, and so we didn't have a whole lot of leeway. But, we're very fortunate. We have a couple dents on the car and a mirror that was messed up. That's it. Today, there are thousands of students here as well. These kids want legislators to hear from them and how these cuts to education funding have affected them personally. Many of them talking about how their textbooks are either falling apart. One girl said her textbook is 11 years old. Another said that she's using a used workbook for French class. And so they want the lawmakers to hear from them and how it's personally affecting their education. They fear that their dreams and aspirations may be squandered because of this, that they can't live up to their full potential. It was a close call, but I spoke with the owner of the truck after the crash, and his name is Shane Jones. He tells me the truck was stolen last Friday. He spent the weekend looking for it at local casinos and businesses, and by Sunday, he never thought he'd see it again. Then this morning on his way to work, Shane tells me he saw the suspect driving the truck. So he made a U-turn, called police, and followed the man until they arrived. During the more than 2-hour chase, the suspect drove recklessly through Oklahoma City, Moore, and Norman, and then spent an hour driving around in a field near Indian Hills Road and Pennsylvania Avenue, where police, deputies, and troopers had him surrounded.
I just thank God nobody got killed. He could have killed several people at any given time.
Some of those lives put in danger were our own. The suspect started speeding through the field towards where we were parked, and so we jumped into our news vehicle, not knowing what to expect. My photographer was shooting from the passenger seat, and I sat in the driver's seat, but I couldn't predict his movement, so I stayed parked as the suspect drove up onto Indian Hills Road. Then a Cleveland County deputy rammed the back of his truck, spinning it into the driver's side of our vehicle. Thankfully, the only impact was from a chain hanging off the back of the truck, and that chain did hit our mirror, and you can see it is broken now. The glass flew through the open window into my lap, but thankfully we were not hurt. Just a couple dents on the car is all the rest of the damage that was left. The suspect was taken into custody just north of where we were when he crashed into that pond. He now faces a long list of charges. Live on the scene on the story from the Cleveland County Jail, Jessi Mitchell, News 9. Michael Vance went out with a fight. It took 4 state troopers to bring him down after searching about a 30-square-mile area yesterday. It all ended here on Cemetery Road, about 7 miles north of Butler. Troopers say Vance shot Dewey County Sheriff Clay Sander during a traffic stop in Leedy around 9:30 last night. The sheriff had pulled over a truck that was dragging something when Vance opened fire and shot Sander in the shoulder and elbow. He then drove about 20 miles east into Custer County, which is where state troopers caught up.
But it seems it was a pretty fierce gun battle. There are a number of shell cases at the scene still.
Vance was hit multiple times, but none of the 4 troopers on scene were injured. Based on Vance's comments and actions over the past week, law enforcement agencies were fully prepared to encounter violence. We saw multiple tactical units being used in last night's chase. We also heard from a number of neighbors in the area, very on edge, understandably yesterday. They're now breathing a sigh of relief, and as the news about Vance's death came in, some of them actually came to the scene to try to get a look for themselves. We'll be out here all morning, and we'll keep you updated on the latest developments. Reporting live in Custer County, I'm Jessi Mitchell.